Call the meeting to order.
All right. The meeting has been posted according to open meeting laws.
Roll call.
President Seeger.
Here.
Trustee Alexander.
Here.
Trustee Nugent. Trustee Johnson. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley and Trustee Wisniewski. Thank you.
Just a reminder again, everybody should be using their mics for communication. It's the only way that anybody that is remotely viewing our meetings can hear us. So with that being said, citizen participation. Would anybody like to speak during citizen participation?
That? Do I need that? I'm gonna be kind of short and sweet, and I think you're gonna like it. I was talking to Jason Smalley after a meeting once, a couple of months ago. He said it'd be nice if somebody comes up here and says something nice about the village and the village board once. And I thought about that, and that's what I've got here. I want to start out by complimenting Jason Equitz on the job he's doing in this great pamphlet he put together. You notice all the yellow highlighting, all the important stuff I highlighted on the salt reduction that we need to be doing and what we can do about it. I had no idea, and I bet you a lot of other people didn't either. And then his nice letter on the PFAs. So I shared both of these with my friends from the town and the village of East Troy, town of Troy and the village of East Troy, and they don't have anything like that. People should be having this information available. How are we going to reduce the salt if we don't even know we have a problem? So, and then I asked Jason if I could have that in electronic format. I could forward it to other people because that's a great document. All right, and after that, let's see. I want to compliment Elaine Shu and Lori Alexander on the great job they're due putting together minutes, agendas, village, packets for the meeting. It far exceeds anything the town of East Troy or the town of Troy do. People, the citizens aren't getting any information. Even the board members, I don't think, have a packet that they're supposed to be approving of things. So, and then the way Eileen knows what the heck is going on and explains all this stuff to the board, it's got to make everybody's job so much easier because there's so much stuff to go through and she just explains it. So I think she's doing a great job, and as a result, our meetings are so smooth and kind of short, and we get things done. So congratulations. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Gene. All right, that being said, anybody else would like to speak during citizen participation? Jim? No? You're good. All right, I'll close citizen participation and move on to consent agenda. One motion and a second will approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
second.
I'd like to pull number 2, please.
Do you want to pull it, or you have a question?
I have a question, but if you want to approve everything else, then
Well,
we
let's
can-
just,
I'll look for
whatever
a
you
sol-
want
I'll
to
look
do. I
for a
just have questions
What
about it.
I'd like to do is I'd like to look for a second, and then we will talk or have discussion about your question.
I'll second the motion.
40?
Okay, I was reading through this, and I see that there is the payments made to the manager are in equal quarterly payments in January, March, July, and December. Now, I look over here on the second page, and it says written quarterly reports due on January, April, July, and October. And I thought it would maybe make sense if we coincided the reports with the payments. So we could have Walter here, when he comes in to pick up his payment, he can make his report to the village.
Yeah, that is why it's structured that way, so that it may not be dead on there, but it's the,
Because he'll get paid in December and he has to report in January.
that's right. And so, It's also not just his report, it's also, there's a number of documents in terms of maintenance and checklists that he owes Jason, fuel flowage reports to Lori. So Jason has the final say, according to the contract, is when the payment, has he met those requirements? And if he
Okay.
hasn't, then, and so that's why the adjustment was made.
Is he supposed to be in here to make a report to the village board?
Well, according to this, then he'll have when the next one's due here.
I understand, but I really haven't seen him for his reports. That's what I'm asking.
I know, that's why we put this requirement in there.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item miscellaneous business, consideration of Highway 20 project update and state municipal financial agreement. Tim or Jason, anybody have any questions?
I guess my question was about the trees. So all of those trees are going to be cut?
That's correct. So the trees, I did go measure the sign, but then I found out about the trees. I have not measured the trees to be in the clear zone. However, looking at it in GIS, I suspect that not many of those trees will be left standing after the clear zone is measured out.
And can we replant, or are they going to have to remain down?
No, they will have to stay out.
Is that for visibility reasons?
Yes.
Or,
Same thing with the welcome sign. The concern is that that's causing a visibility issue. DOT had said, hey, you got to remove that for the construction project, which I said, okay. And then I was told, well, you can't put it back. And that's when I inquired why. And they said, well, you never had a permit to begin with. And, you know, we had documentation. Lori had contacted DOT prior and said, hey, do we need a permit? And they said, no, here's a letter saying you don't need a permit. Now we need a permit. But now they've actually got guidance for welcome signs. And the guidance states that the sign needs to be as close to the lot line as possible. So essentially, by their current guidance, that sign needs to be on the edge of the road in Quick Trip's front yard, basically. And there's quite a ravine there, there's quite a ditch there, so I don't know if that's gonna work, but I did push back on the sign, and I don't think we're gonna be getting the sign back where it is today.
So let's just put a big billboard up.
So if it's about visibility and a safety feature, would reducing the speed through that area change the safety factor, and then maybe the visibility and that signage would not be as much of a factor?
That's a question for DOT. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Tim. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so real quick, so clear zone, there's the vision issue, then there's the clear zone. Clear zone, think about somebody drives off the road, they want a certain amount of recovery land or area before they hit a hard object. One question I would have for DOT, because that's you know, from that safety standpoint, if you look at all of their signs, they're 4x4s, but then they drill through them, so they kind of they break away. That might be a question. If it's just vision, you can't really do much with that. But
I do know in this guidance for welcome signs, there is some talk about the breakaways, as you're mentioning, if it's in that right of way or in that runoff zone, which is what you're kind of talking about. But I don't think they're gonna allow it to go back in the median where it is today. They seemed pretty hard down about that. So obviously we can look at other options. I suspect it's gonna require a bigger sign, because I think the sign we have today off to the side just isn't gonna be as effective, so.
Is there another place we could put the sign to use it somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can figure out somewhere to utilize that existing sign, but for in that location, I'm sure we're gonna probably wanna do something different, because a lot of people coming into town are coming down that thoroughfare.
I mean, so yeah, I'm disappointed about the sign. I'm really disappointed about the trees. Because, I mean, this was, the whole benefit of this is to make this, to improve the entrance to the village, and now it's just gonna be a big, giant concrete road.
And so definition of the clear zone is 16 feet, I believe it was, off of the edge of the traveled lane, which is that white line, the fog line. And if you look at the configuration of some of those medians, they get pretty narrow with turn lines that were cut in after trees were planted and things like that. So by the time you cut all that up, I don't think there's gonna be much left of trees or much space left for trees.
Jason, would it be feasible for us to have a company come out with a spade to move them and put them somewhere else in village property?
I mean, we can take a look at them with that in thought. The problem, I think, is just the trees are gonna be too mature to do that. I mean, a tree gets too big to move at some point, and you just, too much shock to the system, and the tree doesn't have much chance of making it.
Who's moving these trees? Is it, or cutting them down? Is it us?
They have
or
not asked us to do it, so I assume they are. Excuse me, they are.
Yeah, it'll be part of the WISDOT contract.
I actually expected there to be something in contract documents or the municipal agreement, but there's not, so I'm assuming they are.
I was gonna say, if we just accidentally forget about them for a while,
When do you think we'll have a timeline? Because I know, like, just me personally, I go through there every day. Well, eventually I'm gonna have to start going down St. Peter's, so.
Timeline on project
Yeah,
or a timeline
like,
on?
like when are we like when are the closures and all of that? And obviously weather is always a factor, but what are they thinking?
So we just had final design, the final design meeting, and how far out do you think details like that are, Tim, on a project like this?
We could probably look in the specs now to see some about the timing, but it's likely gonna be a contract where they're gonna allow the contractor some latitude. The project, as your memo states here, it doesn't let until May. So I think at least a month to get started after that. So May, June, maybe July.
Yeah, it will likely be the whole summer.
But I get, that's what I was wondering, is it so let's just say start June, and then roughly when do you think it would be done?
I would bet November 1 they would shoot for, and this portion from ES to the west, essentially Edward Street, is gonna be a full closure.
And is that from what you've heard, is that a full closure from whatever they start to November 1, or is it partial and then partial, or?
Those are the details I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know offhand, but my guess is once they close it, they're gonna wanna just leave it closed because they get better pricing that way.
I'm just curious, for the businesses in the village, how are they gonna deal with the Dollar General?
So obviously, they're gonna have to allow, local access to, to some of those places, like we would in any other construction project. It's gonna be through traffic that it's gonna be closed to.
are we gonna look at, living just off of 20, I know how many semis come through there. Are they gonna look at putting a alternate or some type of signage, so maybe they can go down to Bowers and come up
There will
Bowers?
be a detour route, which will handle the traffic that road is rated for. I don't know I don't know that I've seen the detour route.
I think they go up, all the way up to 83. They've got to stay on a state highway. But as you know, people don't actually follow the detours in practice.
Now, are they still planning on doing work on 120 next summer?
Yes.
Do we have timing on that?
No, I don't.
Jason, where's 120 going again, from I-43 to south?
Yes. South all the way to 36, I think. So the whole stretch. I want to say that one goes in July.
And then for the area, throw in Highway 83 getting done this year as well.
Oh, boy.
And these are all conversations that were had at this recent meeting. I mean, so these project managers are all talking together, making sure that the detours are gonna work with one another and, so on. So everybody is aware of the challenges.
We should really make sure that those detours don't go through our square. We've just put all that money into infrastructure in that square, and that amount of truck traffic that's normally going down 20 would absolutely destroy that square if we had that volume.
Yeah, nothing, I have not seen anything advertised. Everything was out onto 43 that I saw. I really have a hard time believing they would try to even go. Now, that's not to say trucks won't go do what they want to do, but the DOT isn't going to put out a detour on a county highway like that, I don't think. They're going to try, like, as Tim said, they're going to try to stick to their network of highways.
Would the county consider posting it, no trucks? Because they don't want the road ruined either.
That's a question I can ask county.
I will make a motion to approve the state municipal financial agreement.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Highway ES Square.
Wait, we
engineer-
do have,
Oh,
we
you want to do
do
the
have,
state
an-
municipal?
an engineering amendment on that, I'm sorry,
Oh,
on
sorry.
Highway 20 piece.
I'll make a motion to approve the engineering amendment.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Highway ES Square Engineering Amendment. Any questions about this document from anybody?
I will make a motion to approve the Highway ES engineering amendment.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
One comment I would just like to make about this. So at the last meeting, I brought you guys one of Tim's pivot tables, which I had said at the time, "Hey, this is all in everything." Just so you're aware, this amendment, I didn't realize this at the time, but this amendment was in those numbers, so.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of authorizing DPW portable radio purchase. Chief?
So last Thursday, I'm part of the Emergency Communication Advisory Committee for Walworth County. And we had a meeting last Thursday, and the county administrator came in and kind of gave us some good news that tomorrow they're going to vote on a resolution to fund part of these radio purchases for the municipalities in Walworth County. And when this came through, my first thought is that Jason was gonna take our old ones, and they would just have to be reprogrammed. But these are already, we're looking, some of them are probably close to 8 to 10 years old, because we bought them kind of in steps. And then when this came through, I saw the extra money that I would have in my budget if they pass this resolution tomorrow, and then I think it'd be best just to get Jason new radios. So I quickly called for a quote, and if it passes tomorrow, as long as we get the order in by the 15th, then we'll get that pricing that I got the quote for. And I just thought, if the money's there, why use old ones that might break after a year or two? And we'd have to buy new ones anyway at a more expensive cost, and just go with new ones, so.
I think it's a great idea.
So I don't know what your thought is on using that extra funds in my budget for that.
So,
mean,
so,
that's-
so Jeremy, if the Walworth County is gonna pick up 40% of the first
300,000,
300,000,
right?
geez, this is less than 10% of that, so we're still up by
Right.
30%.
So I was looking, mine came in, you guys approved the last meeting, I think it was like 101,000. So you're looking, they're gonna pick up probably about $40,000 of that. And these came in at 25, I think, or something, yeah, so we're still saving, I mean, I'm still gonna have extra, so.
It's being financially responsible. It's a great call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when is this gonna happen? Is this in 2 years?
2024, they're projecting that the new radio system will go into service. So,
Yeah, if they're gonna use ARPA funds, they have to encumber it by 12/31/2024.
yes. So that's what county administrator said, all their funds have to be used in 2024, so,
They also direly need the radio system, correct?
yes.
So the motion would not be for the police, it would be for the Department of Public Works, correct?
Right, I'd be purchasing them with
Okay.
through the police department, yes.
So then I'll make a motion that the chief of police accept the attached quote for 7 portable radios for the Department of Public Works for $25,617.71 condition or on the condition of the Walworth County Board passing Resolution 99.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Matt did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of police union items, both 2023 through 2025 collective bargaining agreement, the vacation MOU, lateral transfer side letter, and the SRO side letter. Any questions about any of this?
I will make a motion to approve the contract with the Village of East Troy Professional Police Association, as well as the school resource officer side letter, the lateral transfer side letter, and the MOU.
I'll sec.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consideration of Mill Pond Pier replacement. Anybody have any questions about this?
Just timing.
So, talking with different contractors, they want to try to do it yet this winter. So, we want to get this out to bid. That just really the question is the village board willing to support a pier potentially in the $60,000 area range? Those are some of the we haven't officially bid it yet, but those are some of the cost projections we are hearing. Now, this is a maintenance-free pier with railings, things like that. It's similar configuration to what we had. What we had was an all-wood pier, and I think it lasted almost 20 years. So the pier before you, or the pier that we've potentially been looking at, is going to last longer than that, being a maintenance-free product. But I guess the question is, you know, before we go through the bidding process, is this something that would get support?
I got a question for this. This is technically one of our parks within our system, right?
Correct.
And how much do we usually, on average, spend on playground equipment for one of our parks?
Upwards of this.
And this is, I live near the area. I see it used constantly by kids, by families, are always fishing off of that pier. Even when you had the caution tape not allowing people to go on the pier, there were people on that pier fishing. So if we're enhancing the lives of the people that live in the community, the same exact configuration as we would in a park systems by playground equipment for kids, I think that it's a responsible thing to do for the people within this community.
And Jason, I know that the picture here just shows the footprint, but this is what we discussed in Park and Rec with regard to the slanted railings and the handicap accessible features.
Correct.
Yeah, great.
Any concern with it being metal in the summer with the sun and the heat?
So the decking itself is actually like a product you would use on your deck at home. It's not Trex, that's a different brand, but it's similar to that.
It's a
a
synthetic,
plastic
yeah.
synthetic product.
And in that area, I didn't look today, but there has been quite a bit of debris from the whole restoration of that area still in place, and parts of the old pier were still there. Is that, we're talking about doing this project pretty soon here. Are they planning on getting all of their supplies removed?
We are working on trying to get that entire area cleaned up.
Because that's still from the,
It's from the dam
RLP, was it,
removal
right?
contractor, RLP, yes.
okay.
I had another question, because there was a reference to the bathrooms at Playmore. Is that going to be put on hold for indefinitely?
Yeah, so that's also something Vicky had talked about with the Park and Rec Board is, so we had 40,000 in the budget, which is obviously a shortfall, and Park and Rec supported utilizing the money that we had for the bathrooms to complete the pier project.
Well,
Absolutely.
I understand that, but I'm just saying are they still thinking about putting bathrooms down by Playmore eventually?
Yeah, and so recent budgetary talks, you know, that was one of those things that has been pushed out further. It's not a project that is, you know, gonna happen in the next couple of years, but, I mean, it's still a future, you know, a future project,
Yeah,
just out a little further.
40, if you remember when we were talking about budget items, we had identified there was a lot of requests from Park and Rec. Not that we didn't want to do them, but that they really didn't have a game plan behind it all. It was really kind of a random list of items for different areas with no true vision on what the complete project would look like. So maybe if Park and Rec were to concentrate a little bit more individually on each park with giving a total vision, maybe a 20, 50-year vision of what those areas would look like, maybe that would help us identify whether those bathrooms should go there or whether we should start putting our money towards something else in our park systems.
I will make a motion to approve going out to bid for this Mill Pond pier replacement using the budget as outlined in Jason's memo.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to review of personnel manual updates, chapters 1 through 4, the short read that we all had. Any questions about that short read?
Holy cow, this is a lot of work.
Hey, just be happy I split it up for you. Yeah, it was a lot of work, and Joe and Mary have been nice enough to meet with us and go through it with us. My memo summarized some of the major changes that we're proposing in there. There were obviously a significant amount of changes. If you looked at the red line document, a lot of cleanup work. Were there any questions or concerns with any of the changes that we're proposing or made or didn't make?
I've got a question. In the manual, it identifies that we're trying to make this kind of across the board for police, administration, and DPW. And in there, it has verbiage about right to work and things of that sort. Is that going to be in conflict with anything in the contracts for the union employees when it comes to the police department?
We do have a statement at the beginning of the manual that says that the collective bargaining agreement takes precedence if there's a conflict between the language of the two documents.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a good question. I do have one thing I am looking for direction on. As I was doing some cleanup work on the document late last week, I noticed the section that talks about vacation. So under recommendation in my memo, I am questioning vacation time for full-time employees and new employees with prior experience. We currently have a statement that new employees with prior experience may be granted years of service credits subject to board approval. And I thought during a prior discussion, the board had indicated they'd like to see that at department heads' discretion. So I wanted to just get a consensus from the board if you want that changed and if you want some sort of guidance similar to the lateral transfer agreement, or if you just want it at department heads' discretion.
I think it should be at department head discretion.
I don't think you need to be more specific.
Okay.
No, and I think when we had our discussion about it, it was just that it was a great tool to incentivize someone to come to work for the village. And when you have a salary employee, if you give them an extra week, it doesn't really affect anything, the bottom line.
Yeah, and as everybody's aware, it's getting harder and harder to hire employees with no vacation. So it's a little different than it was years ago when this manual was originally written. So that was the one thing I was looking for direction for. Were there any additional questions or concerns?
Looks great, just looks great.
Thank you. So we'll bring the final 3 chapters to you at the next meeting. It'll be a much shorter reading than this was. And then my plan is if we don't have the code of ethics ready yet for adoption, that I will just reword that section to state to be adopted at a later date. That'll be in chapter 6. You'll see what I'm referencing. Thank you.
I just thought of something I didn't think about when I read through this. I'm trying to find it here. Did we have anything in here for maternity or paternity leave?
We have FMLA.
So you do FMLA, but we don't offer anything else besides FMLA?
Correct. We offer FMLA, and then if the employee has accrued sick time, they can apply that during their leave of absence.
Okay, and that can be used, it's not just maternity leave, it's paternity leave as well?
That is correct.
And what about for an adoption? Can they do that too?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, moving on to ordinances and resolution. Ordinance 2022-13, amend the zoning code regarding standards in the airport height restriction overlay district.
We already discussed this, right? And
We
so
did.
We were just waiting for this to come back, so I'll move to approve ordinance 2022-13.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance 2022-14, amend the zoning code regarding the development standards in the mixed business light industrial design overlay district.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-14.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 22-14, adopting salary schedule and related policies.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-14.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
I'll abstain.
Motion carries. Resolution 2022-15, functional classification of streets.
Motion to approve resolution 2022-15.
Second that.
Any discussion?
Question, Jason, is this taking place of the old system that we had for rating?
No, this is the same thing. It's just DOT made a couple of changes within the village. I think there's 3 changes on that map that affected us.
Is that the PACER program still? Is that what that was called?
That's not what this is.
Oh.
That's how we rate the condition
Oh,
of the
okay.
streets.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to reports. Any questions about the October financial report? How about emergency services from 10-11?
Have you been able to talk to the contracted towns yet? No?
We have a meeting next Tuesday with Town of Troy and Lafayette. Still, as far as I know, has not responded yet, so, but we'll see how it goes.
How about from library board minutes from 10-11? Booth Lake minutes, 10-19? How many questions about the October municipal court? Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.